I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard NOC Life.
Well, it's the NOC in full color. You see me? The Hard NOC Life. Comics, movies, and TV. Yeah. Pop culture.
Dominic Ma.
Hello. May the 4th be with you.
Today's the Revenge of the 6th, you see.
That's right. And it was also Cinco de Mayo, which fits in there somewhere, I think.
Right. Well, here let me get on a
Star Wars is very it's of Latin people now.
For sure.
Let's just say it's
for sure. Well, and this is why I want to get on this soapbox for a second. So everyone knows May the 4th has become Star Wars Day over the last couple of years because of the pun. And then I see this happens every year. I see a bunch of people posting Revenge of the 5th the following day. And it it's a weird thing to like piss me off about, but it's it's a pet peeve of mine. That Revenge of the 5th makes no sense.
What? Why? Because
the 6th rhymes with or is the better pun for Sith,
right?
Than 5th.
I don't know, Keith. I think when they were inventing the Sith, they might have just put the words 6 and 5th together and said, "Hey, that sounds like a villainous cult."
Well, to your point, there's already a holiday on May 5th, and it's Cinco de Mayo, so we don't need to shoehorn Star Wars onto that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that's not a thing to get weirdly mad about, but it is.
Well, I do. I get weirdly mad about it, and so every time I see a Revenge of the 5th post, I'm the actually guy who comments, "You should say Revenge of the 6th." Now, here's where I get justified.
Yeah, actually, the word 6th has all the actual letters of Sith.
Exactly. You just add an X to Sith, and then you have the 6th. It makes sense.
It is more like Sith than 5th.
And here's where I'm justified.
Yes.
The official Star Wars account celebrates Revenge of the 6th. They announced here's a bunch of new Star Wars toys to celebrate Revenge of the 6th. So I just kind of want to, anyone listening to this, anyone who's seen me on Twitter, I was right, you're wrong.
Yeah, no, you are right. You're absolutely right. But I mean, more importantly, you don't want to. You can't go up Cinco de Mayo because that's already happening.
Exactly. Right.
You can't be like, there's the one Latin theme holiday we recognize the United States, but it's going to be a Star Wars Day now. That would be contrary to the mission.
What's also fascinating, Star Wars Day always, ties into the beginning of Asian American Heritage Month.
Yeah, because Star Wars is Asian too. Star Wars is everybody.
Star Wars is everything for everybody.
Yeah.
Or it's just like full of cultural appropriation. Take your pick.
Yeah, one of those. Maybe both of those things are true. Both of those things are true.
Well, what's interesting, so this Star Wars weekend, they released a trailer for their new show coming out next month, Star Wars Acolyte. And to tie into the Asian American Heritage thing, it didn't even like register when I saw the original teaser. But like Lee Jung-jae is the lead of that show. He's the main Jedi.
Yeah, how about that? Because Squid Game.
I don't know why that didn't register with me the first time around. It should have, because they released his action figure before everybody else.
Well, it wasn't
he's
clear
the main guy. The show's about him.
Well, first trailer, it wasn't clear that there was like a main person.
Right.
They're introducing us to an ensemble. That's how I took it.
Yeah, Carrie Ann Moss, Amanda Steinberg. But Lee Jung-jae at least is the lead Jedi. I'm sure it's still an ensemble, but this is the first live action. Well, no, if you count Book of Boba Fett as a Star Wars live action show, Tamir Morrison and who's Maori and Ming-Na Wen were Asian Pacific American, or not American. So here's another thing that I think was interesting over the beginning of Asian Heritage Month, because last week Michelle Yeoh, who is not of Star Wars, she is of Star Trek, received the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Yes, she should.
And there was some consternation about like, why couldn't they give it to an Asian American? She's not American, Asian American, and Asian. And I've kind of come around on this topic since I was like a young whippersnapper, where I was like Asian American for Asian Americans. And now I'm more global in my perception. But I'm just curious what you think of that. Like there's people who are like, we shouldn't include, like when we talk about AAPI, Apple Music, Spotify playlist, you don't put BTS on it.
Well,
and I'm like, why not?
I'm still on that train a little bit, but I understand. Yeah,
I don't like BTS, number one, so that's why
I don't like BTS.
I told you I'm Atarashi.
Are you an Asian American even?
No, I'm not. Well, this has already been established.
Right. So let's take for a case study the phenomenon of Asian American people liking BTS or not. This is very, this is instructive towards the whole problem. Asian American people feel sort of obligated that they should like BTS because it's Asian. BTS are Asian. Just let's get this straight out of the way. They're not Asian American at all.
Right.
They're Asian guys from Korea. They do not live here. They did not immigrate here. They don't have family from here. That's what being Asian American is about.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm not saying there is not I mean, this is one of the things, particularly our generation of Asian Americans dealt with, differentiating between Asian and Asian American.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I'm still on the train is because it's gotten increasingly cloudy as the world is globalized. And, it's so complicated because, as we know, Asians are particularly, it's particularly a funny situation in America because the Asian population is so fluid. The most recent Asians really just feel Asian and identify as being Asian. And the old ass Asian Americans like us are like, well, we've been here several generations, so we have this Asian American thing going on, which is sort of different from that Asian thing. But and then, writ large, everyone looks at us just as Asian, so they can't tell the difference. So they were like, what are you even talking about? And then add to that mix, MAGA makes everyone super racist and anti-Chinese. So there's even more of that going on. One could think that would align the Asians in America with the Asian Americans more and get us all on the same page. But anyway, the point is, yes, there's that Asian guy at the Acolyte, right? And there's also some Asian American people.
Manny Jacinto is also in it. Exactly. Well, he's Asian Canadian. Does that count?
Asian Canadian. Of course, Asian Canadian counts. Asian in the American diaspora. I guess, yeah, it's weird because obviously, so back to the BTS thing. So Asian Americans claim BTS because we're part of that general culture. And we are part of that general culture. Korean Americans are part of the same lineage of culture from which BTS thrives. But because we claim Asian stuff, like you liking Chungking Express, me liking Chungking Express, is this thing we do to try to reach back to our roots, right? To have connection. So we create the argument by liking, by glomming onto Asian stuff. So that's why being Asian American is just weird. It's just
so
weird.
Complicated, right? What I just wonder, like celebrating someone like Michelle Yeoh, like when she won the Oscar last.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even address that, but go on.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, number one, the Presidential Medal of Freedom doesn't have to be awarded to American citizens. Like, I think that's something that people didn't understand. But also, like, I think the perception was, well, it's AAPI month, that's why we're honoring Michelle Yeoh, and people were like, well, she's not American, although she won the Oscar for playing like a very iconic Asian American.
Yeah,
her character is Asian American in the movie. Everything.
Yeah.
But it goes back to, like, I remember when Yao Ming was my favorite basketball player in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I actually had and when Jeremy Lin came around, I was like, oh, well, he's actually the Asian American guy we should all root for.
Yes.
But I like Yao Ming more than I like Jeremy Lin.
Well, yeah, sure. No, I mean, there's Asian excellence all around, for one thing. Asian excellence. Great. But yeah, so since you mentioned that, Michelle Yeoh, yes, great. And also, she's been like in the Hollywood scene enough at this point that she's sort of in the idiom of Asian American.
Well, and that's what I mean. I guess that's the other thing. Like, how do you? I mean, like, citizenship alone does not denote one's Americanness. Like,
certainly does not.
She, to your point, she's been in the Hollywood system for a couple decades. She advocates for more Asian actors. Can she not be celebrated with other Asian Americans?
She can't. I mean, she can be. Again,
anything is possible.
We have no way to draw lines, right? We actually don't have any way to set boundaries anyway. So this whole, like, the racial draft thing is weird. So, I mean, we could just go. I guess the easiest thing is just go, oh, they're all Asian, and then we have that principle to group on. The point is,
and it's also, like the Canada question is another.
Yeah, the Canada question always fucks things up. Oh, there's Canadian. There's Canadian people too. Okay, anyway, if you don't know,
after this whole Drake Kendrick Lamar thing, I don't know. We can.
Oh my God! I'm so glad. That's a pop culture thing.
Canada might not be
at all. I know it exists, but what? I haven't even listened to the track, so I don't know. I keep hearing people talk about
Oh, it's the. I mean, I was gonna get to this in Nerd Poppin', but it was like the only thing I was obsessed with. You know, I'm putting a front on this whole Star Wars thing because the only thing I was obsessed with this weekend was listening to Kendrick Lamar eviscerate Aubrey, aka Drake Graham. But we won't get into that. I mean, the last thing.
Okay, more on that later.
The last thing we need is two Asian guys talking about like rap beef. But
Well, it'll be the last thing that the two Asians talk about today.
well, that'll be our outro tag if you want to hear who I think won the great Drake Kendrick battle.
But wait, okay.
Spoiler alert: K. Dot is the winner.
Everyone agrees he's the winner. I figured that out much.
I mean, you know, here's the thing. I was never a big fan of Drake. I'm surprised. I was actually surprised to learn Drake is like considered one of the best rappers of all time. Like the guy from Degrassi is considered one of the greatest rappers of all time.
Of Canadian controversy. Look, since you brought up the mental freedom thing, well, remember back in peak pandemic times when there were a lot of hate crimes against Asians going on.
Yeah, Asian hate.
You remember that BTS was also invited to like be like ambassador or whatever to whatever weird White House thing was happening at the time.
Well, I mean that was a Trump White House.
That might have been a Trump year. So again, exactly, they don't know shit.
They don't know shit.
They're like, we'll invite some Asian people and like make it look like we care. But again, so that exact case, yeah, BTS is not strictly relevant to hate crimes against Asian-looking people.
But again, like I think
America.
BTS's popularity is an
super
interesting
famous.
case study because when you and I were teenagers, or little kids, not even teenagers, if the number one boy, like when we were growing up, it was New Edition or New Kids on the Block, right? It was like that was the teen girls would go crazy over. If it was 5 Asian dudes when we were like in middle school, that would have changed like our perception of the world. You know what I'm saying?
It changed my whole life and the life of many Asian American, especially Asian American dudes.
But that's why I think like we can't necessarily preclude. We can't preclude like non-American Asians.
Yeah, no, we can't.
This like month-long celebration of all things Asian.
We can't. We should be aware. We should just yes. We can't preclude any of that. Asians should not gatekeep that. It's up to everyone who's not Asian in America to try to understand that difference, even though it seems to be really hard because it occasionally is important that there are people who are Asian American. It's up to you, white people. Try to get it together. We understand it and we're confused by it. We want you to be equally confused.
Yeah, I think that's right.
But the other thing about that is freaking that's good. I do love BTS.
And I say all this, I'm not even a fan.
I just want to go on the record.
I could care less about K-pop to be
honest. Saying that.
I'm the one who's sent all the hate mail to me because I don't like K-pop. Dominic actually likes K-pop.
I actually like K-pop quite a bit.
I don't like it at all.
Okay, is it okay? Does your kid like it at least?
No.
I mean, that's too weird, but
okay, great. Well, I mean, I think like the and we've talked about like the foreign pop that plays on our airwaves at home is Japanese pop music. So there's a lot of Japanese pop that we listen to, but we don't listen to a lot of Korean pop.
Well, cool kids listened to J-pop back when they were Asian American and figuring stuff out. And then K-pop came around and kind of there's another wave of that. Then suddenly many more people were into it. So how about that?
Yeah. So anyway, Lee Jung-jae.
Oh yes. Acolyte. Okay. So the Asian guy in the Acolyte. Again, I don't know anything about the Acolyte.
I have no idea what is even happening, and I've seen 2 trailers.
It looks cool though.
It looks cool. Trinity is a Jedi. The guy from Squid Game is a Jedi.
Daphne Keane, who is excellent.
Daphne Keane, the X-23, is also a Jedi. And Jason from The Good Place is a bad guy, I guess.
Yeah,
he's like he doesn't believe in the Jedi. I think it's interesting. And I know nothing about the era of Star Wars that they're talking about.
Yeah, I guess it's cut to some serious up-to-date Star Wars nerd. but as the High Republic, I guess I
think it's an offshoot of the High Republic. I think
that a long time ago, even a longer time ago. Same galaxy, I think.
Same galaxy, yeah.
But still, even a longer time ago, and
things
are going pretty great, but things are falling apart.
Yeah, and I think if anything, this is the origin of the Sith's return to like what we know of.
Yeah.
In the Star Wars saga.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really interesting because like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, a long time ago, I wrote a post on the Nerds of Color about like, here are all the Asians in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 7 years since I wrote that, there's been a shit ton more Asians in Star Wars, and I just don't have the the bandwidth to write a follow up. But
Well, because it'll take too long now, because
there's so
many. Yeah, and actually, the original post kind of that purpose is fulfilled and kind of no longer needs to be like, once they get to a sort of uncountable amount, it's not as novel. and there
I
are
mean, it started out, it was Padme's
very
wardrobe.
countable. Yeah.
Yeah, it started out just Padme's wardrobe and the Nemoidians.
Yes. And
it's
then
ballooned into Lee Jong-jae and Manny Jacinto.
So great. Yeah, and that's got a clue, as it should be, for not just because it's cool and it sounds but because of like you mentioned the cultural appreciation thing earlier, because Star Wars has been the key example of using Asian stuff without Asian people for a long time.
Right.
The best example, really. Star Wars is like, that East Asian thing is cool. That East Asian word sounds cool. That bit of Asian mythology, and then, oh, here's some Middle Eastern mythology. We'll throw them together. We'll have a really cool epic. It's all white people.
Which, again, in that alternate universe where there was a K-pop boy band when we were growing up, there is an alternate universe in which Toshiro Mifune played Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right.
Which, again, would have, I think, transformed the way we viewed ourselves vis-a-vis Star Wars.
It absolutely would. And yes, that is an alternate universe, because he possibly suggested as casting at one point. But it was because he was was it actually because it was an indie movie and he was too big for it? Or
I think Mifune turned him down. I think Lucas actually offered him the role and he turned it down.
Yeah, and remember, the first Star Wars was kind of an indie outlier movie that was a terrible.
No one knew it was going to be the biggest thing in the world.
Right, yeah. But yeah, so yes, to that point, good. Yeah, that was a good concept to respect the roots of the thing. Star Wars, barring most of its stuff from a Kurosawa film or two or three. Yeah.
Which, again, in that sliding doors world, Ewan McGregor wouldn't basically Takeshi. In my headcanon, Takeshi Kaneshiro, since you mentioned Chungking Express, would have played young Obi-Wan Kenobi in Episode 1 rather than Ewan McGregor.
Oh yeah, that's dope. That totally. Yeah, that would.
Because I feel like, to me, he's the equivalent, like indie enough but big enough. Because Ewan McGregor was not a big star in 1999. He had Trainspotting, which came out and made him like big in the indie world. Star Wars propelled him into like A-list status. The equivalent in the late 90s to me is Takeshi Kaneshiro.
Totally. No, that would have been good. Yeah. And yes, and Asian American in caps history would have been different. But anyway, we're here now. And we don't know exactly what Acolyte is about, but it has a great cast. A multicultural cast, a global cast.
Did you celebrate Star Wars weekend doing anything else? Did you watch any other Star Wars film?
No, I mean, I've been a little bit off lately. I'm really excited about the video game. Speaking, I have an Asian joke to make in a minute. I was just looking for the right opening. And I do remember, like, Andor was really good. Let's remember that Andor was really good. And watching the Acolyte trailer, I got the feeling that maybe they'll live in that world of, like, intense written dialogue and not sort of like Jedi, like Zen speak. Like,
I mean, I don't know how true it is, but one vibe I got from the Acolyte trailer is that it's not like shot in the volume. It feels like it's in the real world. Like,
that's also
real sets in real locations.
Yeah. But yeah, basically don't really know what it's about, except that it looks cool. That's fine.
So I did a triple feature, not all back to back. I didn't watch it in the theater, even though they re-released it in the theater. I watched Episode 1 over the weekend. I followed it up with A New Hope. And then I watched The Last Jedi. So I didn't watch the entire saga, but I kind of bounced around.
8.
Yeah. Well, it was like I watched the beginning and end of Obi-Wan, and then the beginning and end of Luke. Because you meet Luke in A New Hope,
beginning and end of Obi-Wan, beginning of Luke. Yeah, that's good.
Right, and you meet Obi-Wan in Episode 1, and he dies in A New Hope. I mean, that wasn't the intention. I just picked 3 movies I wanted to watch. I wanted to watch Phantom Menace because I wanted to go to the theater and watch it, but I was like, nah, I don't really want to go to the theater and watch it. I have it here. So I watched it at home.
Okay.
And I watched The New Hope after that. And then I watched The Last Jedi. And I realized, like, and you know, Phantom Menace is still not a great film. But what I just said about the Acolyte, I think why I like it the best of the three prequels is, again, it's the only one that feels like a real movie shot on real locations.
Yeah. I mean,
Like
yeah,
they hadn't completely gone green screen in that movie yet.
no, you're right. Like, I believe Naboo is like some actual palace in Italy or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
which is super cool. Yeah, no, I get that. Of that original trilogy, I actually like Revenge of the Sith the best, or Revenge of the Six, but not by a lot. I don't like any of them a ton.
Right.
I like Revenge of the Sith the most of any of them. That's interesting.
And what was your opinion on Last Jedi? Where did you stand in the great debate of 2017?
I like Last Jedi more than most people, less than you. This is what I know to be true.
I think that's right.
I like it more than most people, but not as much as you, because there are things, there are basic plot things that about it that annoy the shit out of me. I don't care about I think the casting is great. I think the casting is great and fine, and all the racist things that people were mad about are shitty racist things. The plot itself, I think.
Yeah. I think I've come around on that. Like this in the 7 years since and I still vehemently defend it. I think it's one of the better Star Wars films writ large.
Yeah.
But I do see how the story grinds to a halt when they go, not just because they go to Canto Bight, but like the whole idea is that there's this propulsive storyline where the big ship is chasing the little ship.
Yeah.
And
which is really stupid, by the way. They're just flying out of range for like 50 hours. And
yeah.
but
here's the thing. But when that's the conceit, you can't have an even littler ship go off on a side mission somewhere.
Yeah, like what the hell is good?
Because at least the Rey and Luke stuff is disconnected.
Ever. Anyway,
the Rey and Luke stuff is disconnected, so you don't feel like the urgent. But like when Finn and Rose have to like leave the ship to go to this other place to come back. Yeah, I can see now in hindsight, I can see that's not the greatest. I still think it's the best looking of the sequels.
Yeah, totally, it is.
I think Rian Johnson, and the biggest lie about The Last Jedi is that Rian Johnson just ripped up whatever JJ did in the first one. That's very true in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Where they rip up everything that happened in episode 8.
Right.
I think everything that Rian does in episode 7 picks up threads that JJ drops in episode 8 and episode 7.
What you meant?
Because like people are pissed off that Luke, exiles himself, but like who made that decision? JJ Abrams decided to not show Luke Skywalker until the last 30 seconds of Force Awakens.
Yeah, that was a false narrative. What people were misinterpreting is Rian Johnson is just a little bit weirder than J.J. Abrams in a good way, and he was picking up the threads. He was just making them a little weird in his own way. So it seemed like it wasn't disregarding them at all. He was just doing a take that was more an indie auteur weirdo's take than like a Star Wars auteur's take. Anyway,
you've studied improv though, right? Like
sure,
you've done the yes and game,
sure,
right?
Sure.
Like Rian totally yes and did what JJ did. But what JJ did with episode 9 was not yes and. He was like, actually, forget all that. I want to make up an entirely new story. That's not how you do the improv game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know where Mark Hamill will stand on this, but yes, he absolutely did that. He took the thread of like Luke went and exiled himself, and like, oh, what if the gag was he exiled himself and was like a really bitter old dude who drank, milk out of an animal and was just like really unpleasant. He like went hard with the choice, you know what I mean? And just it may not have been the greatest choice, but
that's the best acting Mark Hamill's done in like 40 years.
Yeah, so all those things of it.
Yeah.
I know, but I have two more things to say about Star Wars, but just because we're here, the thing I did want to make my one Asian Star Wars joke, which is the thing I'm really excited about is the Star Wars video game that's coming out later, because I've gone over the side of just like one of those weirdos who just is obsessed with video games now. And we related to episode 8, I never picked up before that um the planet they take the questionable mission to is okay. Canto Bight is a city, the casino city
I
on
guess.
the planet Cantonica.
Oh, I didn't know that.
See, I don't think it was mentioned in episode 8,
No,
but
I don't think they mentioned. I
they're
just
going
assumed
to a
Canto Bight was
city
the
on a
planet.
planet, and the planet is called Cantonica. And the character from who's going to be in Star Wars Outlaws is also apparently from Canto Bight, which means she's also from Cantonica. And I really think that people from Cantonica are probably Cantonese.
They should speak Cantonese.
They really should speak Cantonese. Hey, it's the casino planet. It's
It's
probably
Macau,
based on
basically.
Macau or Hong Kong anyway. What was the image she was going for there in this casino city, really? Let's be honest. It was Macau or sort of Monte Carlo or kind of Hong
Mhm.
Kong or one of those exotic Asian or Central Asian gambling, towns. And they're all on Cantonica and they're all Cantonese. According to me, according to my headcanon, but also according to the Star Wars pattern of using, again, Asian linguistic word parts to make their cool sounding names.
I mean,
Always.
they don't even hide it in Book of Boba Fett where he's like, "I'm the daimyo now." I'm like,
Yeah,
"Daimyo?" Like,
yeah,
really?
exactly. They do not hide it at all. They're just like, here's an Asian word. This is what we're calling our Star Wars people. But they don't do it with the actual Asian characters because that makes it weird. So
Right.
that's why it's a fucked up cultural appropriation thing. Cause like, oh, here's Kenneth Lang in the episode 7 had a really stupid name like Emerald Statura or something.
Yeah.
Whereas Kylo Ren is named Kylo Ren. I mean, that's Chinese. Kylo Ren is Chinese, okay? All those words are Chinese.
What?
Han Solo, all those words are Chinese.
And the
Let's
Ren
not get
clan in
twisted.
Star Wars Rebels and Ahsoka ended up being all the Asian people too.
Yeah,
That's another Asian actor in Star Wars, Natasha Liu
indeed.
Bordizzo as Sabine Wren, and originally as a South Asian actress with Tia Sircar, and I argue should have remained South Asian in the live action. But
She should have. I remember. Is there a like? So wait, in Acolyte, is there going to be like the prototypical sort of petite brunette white lady lead? And I
no,
guess say that
well,
is
I
the Star
mean,
Wars type established up to now.
does
To a
Carrie
point.
Ann Moss count? And I don't know how much she'll be in the show because I feel like she's the Jedi that quote unquote gets murdered
Okay.
because all the scenes they show of her in both trailers are in the same location.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And
Then
I
that's
think Amanda Steinberg kills her,
huh.
and that's what they're investigating. Because
Huh.
what I can piece together from the two trailers is that a Jedi gets murdered, and Lee Jong Jae's mission is to solve that crime.
Okay.
And it turns out the number one suspect is his former pupil, who's now who is Amanda Steinberg, who is falling to the dark side because they don't believe in the Jedi anymore. And
Uh-oh.
that's where the Sith come from, or come back from, because the Sith had been gone for a millennia, if you recall.
Right.
All right, enough Star Wars talk. Before we wrap, I intended for this to be an all Star Wars episode, but right before we started recording, James Gunn decided to drop the first image of David Corenswet as Superman on his social medias.
Still think saying corn sweat is just a funny word.
I mean, you're going to be a farmer from Kansas,
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Corenswet is kind of the best name.
Good point. Good point. Yes.
What do we think of our first look at David Corenswet?
Let's see. He dropped an image of Superman. He's standing in front of a large window. There appears to be something pyrotechnic happening in the background that may be a spaceship or maybe the Daily Planets or maybe, I don't know, just
Like
pretty,
Brainiac. I think
a
a lot of
pretty
people are
light.
assuming it's Brainiac
Okay, could be. And he's like putting
putting his shoes on.
putting on his boots, which is just sort of a funny image. Like we always assume that yes, Superman puts on his actual clothes, like as opposed to they're not like nanotech, right?
I hope not. If
He
they do
just
the
put
nanotech, I will be pissed off.
yeah, fuck the nanotech costumes. People, but yeah, he puts on not Iron Spider, but actual cloth costume, but he just puts it on really fast, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny to catch him in the moment of actually doing it because we always assume that practically what he was doing was putting them on just really fast.
Yeah. Or actually, the iconography of Superman is that he's got it under his clothes and he just rips off his Clark Kent clothes.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Sorry, I forgot about that. Thank you. Sorry.
That piece, but there's also the phone booth thing. That's what he's doing in the phone booth is goes into the phone booth, puts on his suit, but
yeah,
I'm not sure what the difference is between the ripping of the shirt and putting on the suit. But what do we think of said suit? Because this has been, ever since they revealed the chest emblem a couple weeks ago, all of the speculation's been, what is he going to look like? What is the suit going to look like? Because we've had, Brandon Routh's suit, we've had Henry Cavill's suit, of course, the Christopher Reeves suit. In the pantheon of Superman live action costumes, what do you think of the look of this particular one?
Can I be that guy who doesn't give a shit about Superman's suit? I might defer that one to you. I'm sorry. I'm not the big Superman person, and part of the reason is I just don't care about his costume that much.
Yeah.
Batman has an essentially cooler costume. It's just cooler, so I think about it more. Every new variation of Batman costume, ooh, I'm interested. Superman, all those costumes are kind of the same, and they're all kind of fine. They're fine. It's new. This one is fine. The last one is fine. Christopher Reeves was fine. They're all fine. What do you think?
Good toss back. So I'll make 2 points. I love that they brought back the trunks.
Oh, okay.
There's always pro trunks on a Superman costume. I kind of hate that they're going the New 52 route though, with the high collar and the unnecessary piping all over the costume.
Oh, okay.
So,
does that mean you argue for most close to comic book original, or?
No, I just don't like the pipe. I don't. Well, number one, I'm one of the reasons I stopped reading comic books was because of the New 52.
Right.
Just in general, the whole concept.
All weird.
The whole concept of the New 52, and I was like, and I was still working at Diamond Comics at the time, so I was in the industry at the time. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I don't want to read comic books anymore. And I hated the costume design because I felt like it was all the superhero costume designs for New 52 was just overly designed. And the high collar I just wasn't a fan of. I like the open collar look on Superman. So I mean, but again, like to your point, it's a little nitpicky. I remember when they showed the Flash, Grant Gustin as the Flash like 10 years ago before the show came out, and I was like, that looks stupid, and it was fine in motion. So I'm not going to judge. I just don't like the concept of a high collar on a Superman.
But the high collar is more Chinese, but okay, I won't go down that road.
This ain't Chinese Superman. This ain't Jean Yang Superman.
It surely is not. Doesn't original Superman costume have the yellow belt that's not a belt? Or am I making that up?
Well, yeah, I mean the original. I mean, are we talking about like Action Comics original, or just like
maybe not original, but at some point,
pop culture memory of people?
Wasn't it standard that he had because when you said piping, I was trying to think of that thing that's on his waist that sort of implies a belt, but I don't think it's an actual belt. And this is really not that important.
Well, because you don't give a shit about Superman's suit. Well, the
feature of his costume
in the pop culture memory of Superman. Yeah, he had the red trunks are held up by a yellow belt. Yeah, that's for sure. That is the iconic Superman look.
Yeah, it was very like kind of like sort of cheeky, funny in James Gunn's brand to like have this very casual, like Superman doing the most prosaic thing of putting on his boot, which we never even considered him doing.
Right.
Maybe there's a gag of like, oh, if there's like, a Kryptonite Rocket Knight boots or something. Like we just never considered him putting on a boot.
And there's definitely some like 70s dad rock playing in the background while he
definitely
boots. And I think to your point, I think that's what's interesting is that, if you were to compare the first look of James Gunn's Superman to the first look at Zack Snyder's Superman 10 years ago, it was the image. I don't know if you remember. It's like Superman's been thrown into like a bank vault and it's all like twisted metal.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
And everything.
Yeah.
And that's very, like it's very aesthetically Zack Snyder.
Yeah,
this
totally.
Is very aesthetically James Gunn. So I'll give them that for capturing their alter vision in a single image.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely does that. Yeah, and I think you know more about what the possible plot is than me, so
I'm not really. I know who's in it. Like Nicholas Hoult is Lex Luthor. I think that's Brainiac in the background, so that's exciting that this could possibly be like a villain in a Superman movie that's not Zod. so that's always good.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, and again,
Could
as
be
far as-
Starro. I mean, who knows? James Gunn loves him some
Did we
Starro.
killed Starro? Did we? He could come
Different
back.
universe.
He
Different
could come
universe.
back, right? Right.
Although, well,
Is it?
actually, I take that back because
I
Peacemaker
don't
is
know.
still happening, and
I think
Peacemaker.
I like to think that Suicide Squad is grandfathered into
Yeah, I'm
this
pretty sure they are.
universe. Okay. Because yeah. Um
So I mean, it stands to
Fine.
reason Peacemaker still defeated Starro, so it
Yeah.
just was a different Superman.
I did sort of have a Superman moment last week because I rewatched Superman 3, which is just wonderful. Have you watched
Yes,
Superman 3
it's
recently?
very good. I don't know why
Superman
people
3
shit on it.
is wonderful. It has weird things about it, but as far as being like relevant to shit happening, like it's so on point on everything. There's race relations, there's someone builds a giant computer that goes out of control, even though it's totally outdated computer, that story is still quite with us.
When that woman gets trapped inside and becomes like cyborg,
Yeah.
That it gave me nightmares when I
It's
was young.
terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. So it's such a weird villain, but it's one of the best villains Superman has ever faced. A computer that can sort of, like Brainiac, can anticipate
It was the
anything.
closest thing we ever had to Brainiac.
Yeah, it was so yeah. And Richard Price's character is really weird and of a certain time, but really funny. And he's the he's the Richard Pryor computer nerd. He builds supercomputers. That's just a funny phrase.
And the main plot, not the main plot point, but his whole like gimmick is the main plot point of the movie Office Space.
Yes, yes.
Where you take a like 3 cents off of every paycheck and
Yes.
put it in a different account.
And let's not and all that stuff is just dressing to the fact that it features Christopher Reeve's best performance and the most interesting actual Superman thing, which we hope we would get in the movie. We would hope we get something as interesting as this plot point that they come up with, which is great, which is really okay. Superman turns in not evil, but kind of like a drunk bro.
Yeah.
He becomes kind of a bitter
He
middle-aged.
becomes the Zack Snyder Superman.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where we're going. And Clark Kent has to literally fight with him to regain a sense of purpose.
I mean, if that was the plot of Justice League 2 and 3, I would be all for it. Unfortunately,
Right,
that was
right.
not the plot of Justice League 2 and 3. It was Superman is evil and we have to take down Superman.
Right. They didn't do it as well as they did in Superman 3.
Yeah, no, I
I
agree.
just thought that it's a similar concept, but they did not do it as well. Because Christopher Reeve is a really good actor, for one
Well,
thing.
and I think to your point, like the filmmakers, I don't even recall who directed. Was that Richard Lester still?
I believe it was Richard Lester.
Either way, and I mean, say what you will about Richard Lester's take on Superman.
Right.
I think at the end of they believed in the heart of Superman is that he is a good character, a good
Yes.
moral character. What is revealing about Zack Snyder's view of Superman is that if any man had that much power, he is inherently not good.
That's
the fundamental misunderstanding in my head that he has about the DC heroes. Like,
yeah.
What sets DC apart from Marvel and has always been is that Marvel has always been the human flawed heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And realistic or not, the DC heroes were the Greek gods. Like they were moral symbolism.
Yeah.
That's why Batman doesn't have to kill, even though he famously said, well, let's put him in a situation where he has to kill. Like,
right.
You don't write that situation for Batman because he won't kill. That's just
how that character
is.
Again, they didn't wrestle with any of those interesting issues well at all. Darn it.
But I mean, Nolan tried very clunkily where he's like, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you. Like,
right. Yes.
It's a very pedestrian way to interpret that.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that, like, I'm sorry, quick rant on Batman Begins.
Sure.
But the whole, igniting factor of his quest to Batman is that he refuses to execute the ninja.
Yes.
So in order to not do that, he burns down and kills all of the other ninjas.
Yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing.
Like,
it's not a
It's not well thought out there, Bruce. I refuse to kill this ninja, so I'm going to kill all you other ninjas.
It was not well thought at all. In self-defense, he destroyed that whole temple or whatever, right? Yes.
So anyway, speaking of DC, I don't know, this is a terrible segue. Any 12 Valentines updates for us?
Yeah, well, we put a song out and we're gonna resume work on the next tune, which is Birds of Prey and Suicide Squad related. And hopefully that'll be coming out in this month, which is now May. And was there some other thing I was gonna mention? I don't know, but well, yeah.
Yeah. great way to plug your project. I think.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not in a super pluggy mood right now. I should be in all the times. 12 Valentines, the music project I'm doing. I'm
Yes.
Dominic Ma, Keith.
Yeah, well, I told you the thing I was using my entire brain power was following the Kendrick and Drake beef.
Okay, well, explain it to me as someone who didn't ever.
So just essentially, like, I don't know like the history of why they don't like each other, other than, well, Kendrick Lamar makes it very clear he doesn't like Drake because Drake's a pedophile apparently and a culture vulture, and that's the premise of every Kendrick diss. And all of the Drake songs have been nuh-uh, and that's kind of the extent of how they've been battling over different singles that they're dropping every like 20 minutes. So that's kind of like in a nutshell. But clearly, you know, Kendrick Lamar has like a lot of hatred for Drake. I don't know what like started all of it. I don't know exactly why now, but
well, this is a funny thing about nerdom. There are people who do like it's.
Sure. Oh, there's
one
like
of those
people.
fandoms I only pay attention to loosely.
Yeah,
I pay loosely attention to the diss track fandoms, and other people get deep into it.
Remember a couple weeks ago when I was like all excited about WrestleMania 40? It's kind of like that.
Right.
I was not paying a lot of attention, and then like, oh, hey, The Rock and Cody Rhodes are about to like wrestle. Ooh. It's kind of that same vibe. Like,
okay,
have a peripheral knowledge of what's going on. Again, the biggest takeaway I had is like, wow, people really do consider Drake the greatest rapper of all time. Like, that's actually a thing.
I think,
what has happened to the culture?
Maybe that's by like some weird modern metric we don't understand. Like he has the most zillions of Spotify clicks or something, which is stupid. We also, the way we measure how music is good these days is also stupid, says the old guy.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'm biased.
Metrically,
because...
obviously, we recorded he has the highest numbers because he came up in the era of recording metric numbers of everything.
Right.
We do not know metrically if Public Enemy was the greatest rap group or De La Soul was, and we don't care.
No, they were both great. And the thing is, I think with Kendrick, like he is a throwback to those kinds of rappers too.
Totally.
Like, he's, a lyricist. I mean, the dude won a Pulitzer Prize for his album. So like, I don't know. Again, I'm biased because I am a Kendrick fan and was surprised to hear that so many people like Drake. So that, again, my opinion doesn't count. And then the last thing we need is two Asian guys waxing poetic about hip hop and culture authenticity of one's blackness, which is again a shot that Kendrick takes at Drake. So
yeah, but again, I don't think we're claiming anything out of bounds to say that Kendrick is better than Drake. I
think objectively,
that's just an educated person's opinion.
Objectively, he is a better rapper, but. I think the questions of authenticity do circle back to what we started with, as far as like what we consider what is Asian and what is Asian American here.
But also, here's the thing: like, as a mild hip hop fan, I don't dislike Drake that much. He's just not my favorite.
Yeah.
So this whole culture of like getting really hard into the diss. I mean, diss track itself is sort of a performance, right? It's not.
Well, we'll see. We'll see
depending on how vicious it gets, right?
Yeah. I mean, there was I don't think it happens anymore, but there was this whole like series of versus battles where we had like old school rappers would get on stage and like actually battle rap. Okay. And that was a big thing for a while, and that doesn't come on anymore. And I just wonder if you were to have Drake and Kendrick like in the same vicinity to do that, it could get ugly. I'm pretty sure. They would have to stage that versus in an octagon, probably. Anyhow, how can people find you and your work on the internet, Dominic Ma?
Oh, I'm Dominic Ma, and I'm at Dama, DOMMAH, Dama on most of the socials, and also please follow us at 12 Valentines on Instagram, or find us on Bandcamp.
Nerds of Color is at the Nerds of Color on every platform, and follow the podcast at hardknockmedia.com. That's NOC for Nerds of Color. Give us a rating and review if you listen to the podcast. Let us know you are a listener and tell us if we got anything wrong, and I'm sure we will ignore those comments. But you can watch the videos that we upload on youtube.com/thenerdsofcolor. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Until next time.
May the force be with you.
Revenge of the Sith.
Culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this. This is the hard knock life, but not the chicken kind. More like the people in